Coming up on this episode of Prop IQ, we look at the do's and don'ts of home renovations. We'll talk to the professionals who renovate and sell houses. Plus, I'll be joined by leading Queensland real estate agent Carla Haddan from Place Bulimba, who'll talk us through the most effective ways to renovate your house for sale. This is Prop IQ. Hello and welcome to Prop IQ, a series produced by the Real Estate Institute of Queensland, where we take a deep dive into the latest trends, news and insights in the real estate industry. In our previous episodes, we've covered topics like first home buyers, the rental market, auctions, how to prepare your home for sale, how to kickstart a career in real estate, and the hidden costs of buying a property. So as you can see, whether you're a real estate industry professional or a consumer, Prop IQ is designed to help you. So I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we post new content. On this episode of Prop IQ, we're looking at renovating your home. With the current shortage of tradespeople and materials, you might be questioning whether now is the right time to start your home renovations. Surprisingly, despite rising costs, many Queenslanders are still diving into home improvement projects. In fact, ABS data shows that financing volumes for renovations have more than doubled since pre-COVID levels. During the COVID lockdowns, many of us took the opportunity to improve our lifestyle at home through property renovations, spurred on by a variety of government incentives. Popular renovation choices included updating bathrooms, kitchens and swimming pools. However, it is crucial to consider how much to invest in renovations without risking overcapitalisation. Regardless of what kind of a renovator you are, most of us would agree that it's best to avoid spending money on our property that's not able to be recouped down the track if and when we eventually sell. You want to ensure that your renovation adds value without eating into your home equity more than necessary. The reality is that not all renovations are equal and differ significantly in their contribution to the overall increased value of your home. So, before you pick up the hammer or a power tool, it's always a good idea to think very carefully about where to concentrate your renovations. To provide clarity on where your money is best spent on a renovation, we consulted with experts to get all the valuable tips and tricks.
Hi, I'm Claire Perham. I am the General Manager of Axiom Construction Group. We are doing a renovation of this property here in Virginia and making it a little bit more comfortable for the occupants and flow a lot better for them and their needs.
I'm Hayden Kidd. I'm Dan McKerrow. We've been renovating properties for about 8 years now. We tried to have a bit of a target of each year we've been together to sort of renovate a property a year and move on from there. Yeah.
The way that we have positioned ourselves in the market, we tend to pick up the Queenslander style houses. We do a fair bit of house raising and build under. With a building like this, it's pretty easy to get a bit more creative because it's a timber building. It's a wee bit easier to manipulate the floor plan and change things with it. And we're not bound by concrete slabs and brick.
If you're renovating an older property, I think it's pretty important to not overlook what the property was originally. Make it the best that it can be without changing its original character that obviously drew us to it in the first place.
So the most common mistake that we see is clients have an idea of what they want to do with their property, go directly to an architect. You need to engage a builder first, and that is to get in front of the client when they're still at idea stage to make the build more efficient and therefore cost effective.
One of the renovations we like to go simple. We like sort of the simplicity of picking one tile, one floor covering, one colour paint for the walls, including the ceilings, and just pare things back.
A lot of the time the most expensive finish isn't actually the right finish for your home, and you can certainly find beauty in standard materials. I think it's okay to splurge on an item or something for the home, but it has to create a point of difference that people will pay for.
To avoid overcapitalising, definitely do your research. Realestate.com.au is a fantastic place to go to figure out what houses are selling for in your area and maybe on your street. Maybe talk to your local real estate agent as well, just to make sure that what you're thinking about doing and what you're planning on doing isn't going to put you outside of what you can potentially get for your property.
Yeah, overcapitalising is definitely easy to do, and I think you've got to be careful with how much the market has moved and how much equity you might have in your house. Don't take your equity for granted in terms of just free will to spend until you get to that value of what it's actually worth.
One of the biggest costs you have when you are renovating is labour. So I would ask the builder, what can I do myself, or what will you allow me to do in the renovation that's going to save you money?
Even if you're not sure of what you can do, just ask him. Just say, hey, is there anything that I myself could do and that could help out in terms of cost?
My top tips for first-time renovators: ask for advice. Don't try something yourself that you've never done before. We have been into homes where people have pulled out structural walls or taken off bracing ply off walls, which is then very detrimental to your building standing up for a long time. If you are looking at a big renovation, definitely engage with a builder who has an architect that they work with frequently, who can help you through the design process to keep within your timeframes and your budgets.
Biggest tip to a first-time renovator would be, again, have a detailed plan of what you want to achieve with the property and a running budget of what you hope to spend, but make sure you're updating it along the way, because that's certainly going to change as you go, and you'll have to make allowances as you go for that.
When it comes to renovations, it's important to cater for your own needs and lifestyle, but similarly, you should keep your eye on the future and consider the needs and wants of future buyers. So today, we brought in Carla Haddan, partner and lead agent at Place Bulimba, who is an expert on selling and buying. I'm going to ask Carla to share her insights about renovations and the selling process. Welcome to the show, Carla. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's get started with the key question, which is, how do we renovate a home that suits our purposes for why we're living in it, but also suits that future buyer and ensures we get that money back?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the number one question we do get asked at the listing table. And sometimes we're invited into homes well before they're ready to go. So I would always say start with the kitchen. What state is the kitchen in? That would be my number one renovation if the home needs it. I think lots of people look, be it the male or the female in the family. If people love to cook or they have a big family, it tends to be the hub of the home where people gather. I think the kitchen would be my number one area to renovate.
It's interesting, isn't it? Kitchen is always where the heart of the home is, I think. All right, that's a good start. And of course, we need a functioning kitchen while we're living there. What are some of the other things that buyers look for? You've said kitchens are the number one thing. What else are buyers looking for?
I would probably then go to bathrooms. I think bathrooms then become an expensive renovation cost. And I think if you can have a really nice, neat bathroom in your home, or if you have several bathrooms in the home, I would look to do those first.
Okay, all right. And I think consistency is important, isn't it? You know, sometimes we see people doing a bathroom in a particular colour and style, and then there's some inconsistency. Is that feedback you hear from buyers?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing again would be to keep it. I love white. White is easy, it is clean, it is easy to keep clean, and again, most people like a white bathroom. It's definitely the way to start.
That's a great segue to a question that I think I know the answer to, but sometimes as human beings we can fall into the trap of doing things that please us. So let's talk about that. I'm sure you've encountered some horror stories over the years. You've been doing this for over 20 years now. What are some of those pitfalls you've seen where people are renovating to suit their own taste?
Look, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We all want to live in our own homes, and we want to be comfortable, and we want to have the things around us that we love and the look that we love. But if you do want to go down that track at some point and sell that home, it is going to be divisive with people. So again, maybe choose one room that becomes your room and your look. But if you do go to sell, I would look. I've seen wallpapers, I've seen different colors, I've seen mismatched flooring of timber and lino and carpet, and there is no flow. So again, with flooring, I mean, having mismatched different floors, it makes the house look smaller. So if you can have one actual consistent flooring, it is going to make your house look bigger, and it's going to look clean and tidy. Okay,
that's great advice. And I think something like paint is relatively easy. If you want to go crazy with your paint colour, maybe that's something you can do to make it a little bit more
so much easier to remove and paint over when the time comes to sell. People do want to imagine walking into a home and seeing their own families living there. I would absolutely keep every room the same colour. It sounds so boring, but you have to look at it with buyer's eyes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Carla, you touched on expense. So one of the risks associated with renovations is overcapitalising. We see people getting carried away and then being disappointed when they can't recoup their money. So what's your view on that, and how do you avoid that pitfall?
I think that's probably why it's important to get an agent in earlier than when you're ready to sell. You need to know the target market, who is going to be the buyer of your home, and looking at, again, through their eyes, what do they want to see? And an agent in your area will be able to give that advice of what they're looking for, and that's a good place to start, as opposed to your interpretation or opinion of who the buyer is going to be. I think it's important to get an experienced agent through.
Great. And while we're on the topic of making sure that you are engaging a professional, namely a real estate agent, what about the importance of using qualified tradespeople, people who are builders, proper licensed electricians and plumbers? We've all heard those stories about the DIYers, and sometimes instead of adding value, you're actually diminishing that value with a poor quality reno, right?
That's it. We all know when it comes to, again, listing a property, if we know that there's been renovations done, we're asking for all the certificates up front. We've had horror stories over the years where people have done it themselves, we didn't realise, and you come to the end and there's no certificates, there's a deck that's been added, the solicitor's picking it up, and it's becomes a nightmare for everyone. That's a long time ago in the early part of my career, but it's something that every agent should know to do, is to ask for these certificates. But there's definitely some dodgy trades out there, and it's really important. I think you make the money at the end if you have a quality build. We only have to look on the TV at night time on some of these current affairs shows to see how many bad stories there are out there.
Yeah, that's right. I think not only do those bad renovations look visually disappointing, but as you've just pointed out, they can also lead to potential injuries and of course risk for both the agent and the seller.
Yeah, absolutely.
So finally, we talk a lot about renovations and immediately we think about expensive renovations, but there are some things that we can do to renovate the property that don't need to cost the earth and can make a big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I would look at lighting. You know, are all the lights, so many times I go into homes and the down lights are, some are yellow, some are white. You know, just having that consistency in lighting all the way through. Curb appeal, you know, if people are turning up outside your home, is it a home that they want, they really want to go in and buy? So, you know, gardens are easy. You know, that's something that you can do yourself, is, you know, popping down to the local Bunnings and grabbing some beautiful plants and making sure the turf is correct.
That's a great point. They're all things you can do that don't need to cost the world but can make such a difference. And I guess what I wanted to finish with, Carla, is just on that, that's the benefit of, I think, getting a professional real estate agent in to look at the property and walk through it with fresh eyes, because obviously we lose objectivity when we've been living in the home.
Yes. Yeah, no, look, unfortunately sellers do, and I'm sure we're the same every time we go to sell our homes as well. You do, we all tend to have a different opinion of our homes. But the other thing that agents have is at their disposal is their little black book of trades, and their trades that they have been using for years and recommending. And I think that's a great place to start, because you know, having that a friend who's used someone is also handy. And but there's so many great local Facebook pages as well where you can also get a good opinion on who's doing a great job in the area.
Yeah, I think the value of that is inestimable. Real estate agents who have been doing this for a long time will have the little black book.
That's it.
And those tradespeople who are able to jump in and do the work quite quickly if you're needing to get a task done just before going onto the market. Some great tips and insights, Carla. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This has been fun.
And now it's time to answer some questions. If you have a question about the renovation process, whether you're a buyer or a seller, make sure you comment so we can help you out. To give me a hand at the desk for this episode, I'm joined by our very own Chief Operating Officer, Dean Milton. Thanks for joining me, Dean.
G'day, Antonia. Great to be back. Got some great questions again here to tear through. So, first of all, Queensland, again, more legislation. We're introducing a seller's disclosure law coming in 2025. What would be the obligations for people with renovations when they come to sell? What do they have to disclose? Are there any obligations to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's already a really important statutory obligation that relates to renovations, and that's where you are an owner builder. So it's a specific type of permit you need to get to be allowed to undertake owner builder work. And so you get given a permit to do that work where it's over, I think, $11,000. And so that allows you to do a range of renovations. But then when it comes time to sell, if you sell within a 6-year period, you need to disclose the fact that you've undertaken owner builder work. What's important to understand is that that type of work doesn't then get the benefit of the home warranty insurance scheme. So that's important to understand. And the other thing that is worth mentioning here, Dean, is that often buyers are under the impression that a seller has an obligation to disclose any kind of renovation or building work that's been undertaken and whether it's been properly certified and approved, and that's not the case. So certainly as a buyer, you can ask for that information, or you might even make the contract subject to a special condition that allows you to confirm that all of the work's been properly approved and certified.
Yeah, and on that theme, when you are going to buy a property, what should you look for that when it's been recently renovated? what should you be looking for in that regard?
Yeah, that's right. That's a great question, because you want to be sure, for example, that if there's a new bathroom or kitchen, it looks like it's been done fairly recently, then you want to make sure that that has been actually done by a licensed tradesperson, and all the relevant certifications and approvals are available, because of course then it gives you a comfort, number one, that it's been done properly, but secondly, if it's been done within a certain time frame, as the new buyer, you'll still be afforded the protection of that home warranty insurance scheme that I've mentioned.
Yeah, great. Again, sort of on that same theme. So when you are renovating, it's tempting to do it yourself, especially at the moment when the tradespeople are, in high demand and hard to get hold of.
Yes.
What are those do's and don'ts when you are going to renovate? Should I be wiring up the place myself, for example?
Well, I've got to say, all of these renovation shows have got a lot to answer for, Dean. Lots of hospital visits, as well as some very dodgy renovations. So look, there's absolutely some work that you can undertake very safely, but there's a bunch of work you shouldn't even entertain. So things like plumbing, electrical work, and also things like building a garage and structures. You really want to make sure that you are using someone who's properly qualified and properly licensed. That's going to be really important, because when the time comes to sell, if you don't do something properly, it can lead to contract termination, and potentially also, putting aside legal and contractual issues, it may even lead to loss of life or an injury of some kind if you haven't performed that work properly.
Yeah, great. Bit of a left field one, I know it's something you're passionate about, multi-generational living. So renovating a house for that, what are some of the things you should consider, and do you think they would add value when you go to sell in future? You've got parents who are looking to downsize, providing that opportunity through renovations. What opportunities are there for someone who's looking to sell?
I love this question. I am biased. I've grown up in a multi-generational household. I think there's lots of benefits. What we know, what the data very clearly tells us, is that we have an ageing population in Queensland.
Yep.
But we also have data that really shows us very clearly that many of us need help with raising kids and juggling the complexities of modern life. So I think there are massive advantages for everyone associated with looking at creating dual living homes and multi-generational households. And so that's going to include things like granny flats, and we've seen local governments and state governments relaxing the laws around the addition of a granny flat, which can be a great option. Then you can have people still living independently but very close by, and so that can be a great way of looking after ageing parents, as well as getting the benefit of an extra pair of hands to help out with raising the kids. And then secondly, we might even think about adding an entirely new level at the top of the house, or perhaps at the bottom of the home. So again, they're all great opportunities, or simply extending out the property if you've got the land to do that. And so I think that's a really great way of being able to kill a number of birds with one stone. And I think that's something that as Australians we need to get better at embracing, particularly at a time when affordability is top of mind, and we know that it is extremely challenging to find property. It could be a great way of solving for that problem.
Yep, great points. That's all the questions we have today, so thank you very much.
Amazing, thanks so much. Some excellent questions in there. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to submit them. And don't forget, if you've got some other questions or any feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. So make sure you comment to enable us to respond. And if you'd like to be part of our Q&A segment or appear on the show, make sure that you follow us on social media. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Prop IQ. Let us know your thoughts on this episode by commenting, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you know someone who might find this video useful, why not share it with them? Thanks for watching. See you next time.